Hello everyone, Matt from Model Minutes here and welcome back to the workbench for another unboxing. Today we're looking at the 1/72nd scale Hawker Tempest Mk.V in post-war use from Airfix. So join me as I take a look inside the box and see what we've got. So on the outside then we have this artwork of the Tempest flying over what looks like the cliffs of Dover, and it's in a intriguing metallic silver finish, and that's the main reason I got this one. So there was a previous release of this kit last year and it was all in D-Day kind of colours, but this is a post-war version and I quite like the look of it in silver. Down bottom left we've got an item code of A02110, so it's a Series 2 kit. On the thin edge, we've got some information about the actual Tempest here and the dimensions of the kit. Its length is 143mm, width of 174, and there are 72 parts inside the kit. We've got two different paint schemes to choose from. The first one is from one in 1946 that was used in Germany, and so too is the second one, with the difference being that this is a 26 squadron aircraft, and the lower one in camouflage is an 80 squadron. That being said though, this one does have some things highlighted in blue, so we'll have a look at that as we get into the kit. Paint colour callouts here are from the Humbrol range. Naturally you can use any brand that you like. And we've got one flying hour, cut that out, keep it, use it to get more kits if you're a member of the club. Alternatively, send those coupons off to Models for Heroes so they can use them to do their charitable work. Skill level 2, so not necessarily the easiest kit in the Airfix range, but shouldn't be too difficult either. On the other thin edge, we've got some warnings as per usual from Airfix, a cartograph logo, so cartograph decals included, which is great. And then we've got some more information here. So it says that this was made in India and the design and tooling dates from 2021, whereas the schemes and pack design dates from 2022. I think though that was when everything was created. I don't think it was originally released in its original boxing until 2022, and then this one has come into the range this year, 2023. But thin edges feature the same information as on the front, so let's get inside and see what we have. So bag of bits and then the paperwork. So let's just put the transfers to one side as well, and we will look at the instructions. To the normal format we can expect from Airfix, information about the actual Tempest in a variety of languages, and this down here says that they want to extend their thanks to the Irish Museum at Hendon and Chris Thomas because they helped with the development of the kit. So turning over, as usual, a few more bits of information here and an icon key to the different icons you will encounter during the build. And then we step into the actual stages. So we have these instructions printed in shades of different colours, and we have colour callouts here annotated as well, and they have sort of shaded them in different colours to make it a little bit easier to understand. So we've got various parts which need to be joined together for the cockpit interior. These include the chair, the gun sight, we have a transfer for the control panel, we have our air intake radiator down here, and a lower tail gear bay which needs to be inserted inside the fuselage half. There are some holes to drill out here, one at the top and one at the bottom, so no doubt we'll find out why we drill these holes later on at the relevant stages. We install our engine radiator into the bottom of the aircraft and our cockpit parts in here, and I remember when this was announced I did say it would probably share some design elements with the Typhoon, and everyone said, oh no, it would be a completely different tooling. Some of these elements do seem similar in the way they've designed them. Naturally, it will be a completely different tooling, but I would say some of the design ideas have transpired to be brought across, so they're using similar methods. If I recall correctly, effectively the chair design, it was plugged into the cockpit in the same way. We close up our fuselage and then we have the option to have our drop tank. So you need to open up your holes in the lower wings for that. And also you can open up these two holes if you want to use one of these display stands, but that is not included in the kit. It would appear as well that if you want to have the landing gear raised, you need to glue the doors in from the inside and not from the outside. So you need to make a decision very early on whether you want gear raised or gear lowered. Otherwise, you just don't install that part. Moving on to here, we have various clear parts which go into the bottom, which are our lights. And again, there's another hole that needs to be drilled out. and then we join our upper wing halves onto our lower wing halves. There's still some more bits to go inside the cockpit, so the control column and the rudder pedals, and then we've got this fairing that goes around the cockpit getting glued into place. Install our lower wing into the bottom of the fuselage, and then we can glue in our tail surfaces, and they do have port and starboard, or S&P, moulded into the plastic by the looks of it to make it more clear which one goes where. Rudder, and then the option to have the tail wheel raised or lowered. Simply glue in the covers for the raised option, or glue in the wheel and then the split covers for the lowered version. Coming over here, it would appear that this is the steps for having your landing gear in the lowered position, and we move on through, and there's still quite a few bits of detail to go into there. And we can add our wheels and then our drop tanks as well, which appear to be moulded in clear plastic, and I'm sure there's probably a good reason for that. Our engine exhaust flap can be glued into place. I would imagine that's posable, given that it is a separate part, so you can have it more open or closed. And then some smaller details go in. There is a footstep here to help the pilot get in. If it was on the ground, it would be lower down, and if it was in flight, the step would be raised into the bottom of the aircraft, I imagine, because that seems to be how it was on other aircraft such as the Hurricane. Engine exhausts come as two parts which get glued together and then inserted into their holes inside of the nose, and also we have the option of two different prop blades. Actually, it's not the blades that are different, it's the spinners. The spinners are different, so you need to make sure you use the right one depending on which version you're doing. Then we install that propeller assembly into the nose of the aircraft, and if you do it correctly, by not gluing this central mounting hub in place, you should have a freely rotating prop. Come down to here, we have the option of installing a pilot, and we have colour callouts here for him. And there is also the cockpit canopy, which is a two-part piece and can be positioned opened or closed. And we have an aerial, which also needs to go into the hole. And I'm pretty sure that's probably what we drilled a hole for much earlier on. So let's look at the painting instructions. Painting instructions are in full colour, which is what we like to see. So this is the one I'd probably be tempted to do. It's silver all over. We have a bit of yellow on the leading edges here. And we have a research note over here about the drop tanks. The drop tank fairings were moulded in clear plastic. So the actual fairings would have been clear and the drop tank itself painted. So that's why those parts have been moulded in clear plastic, so that you can replicate that. So probably worth putting a bit of tape on that. That's probably what I'll do, put a bit of tape on that, and then spray this whole thing silver, throw on your transfers, a bit of yellow on the wingtips, and you are done. The transfers over here, they come as separate parts to go over your landing gear bay doors. So you can do it correctly. And I'll have a quick look at the decal sheet. So you can see on the decal sheet here, up here, that they're all split into multiple parts to make it easier. So you can either have it as a whole part or as broken parts to put it down. So if you've got it raised, you can just use the whole one. And if you've got it lowered, then you're going to have to use the multiple parts and put them in the right place. But that's very thoughtful, so you don't have to end up cutting things yourself. Then the other scheme that's included in the kit is this camouflage one, which is the very typical light grey on the bottom and then darker grey and dark green on the top, but it does have that interesting blue nose and the blue drop tanks. Again, it says here that the fairings were clear, so you'd have to mask that bit up or just avoid painting it. And again, for the serial codes on the bottoms, they've provided us with separate ones if we have our landing gear down to make it a little bit easier. Yeah, so instructions are pretty good, up to the normal standard from Airfix. Decals, we've had a quick look at them, but these are very nice. These are Cartograph decals, so they're made in Italy by the Cartograph company, and usually their transfers are some of the best in the world. I can't see any blemishes, tears. The printing is really good. Registration is good too, so everything is lined up correctly. The red dots in the centre of the roundels isn't off to one side or whatever. Yeah, normally I don't have any problems with the transfers from a Airfix kit. And I'll say it again, say it every time now, I think, is that sometimes the transfers cost just as much as the plastic parts as well. So you're paying for good quality transfers in an Airfix kit. So let's put that to one side and look at the plastic parts. So in my little bag here. Let's get that open if we can. So the clear sprue, and we have got our drop tanks molded in clear plastic. However, the plastic, the actual part we're going to paint, has a bit more texture to it, and the clear part is crystal clear at the top. That's quite a nice feature, isn't it? We have various light parts here, our reflector gun sight, which goes inside the cockpit, and then our front canopy windscreen, and the top of the canopy, which can be positioned open or closed. And yeah, the plastic on this looks really, really good. The molding is to a very good quality. They are crystal clear parts. Not much in the way of flash that I can see, just these extra bits of extra plastic that need snipping away and cleaning up. Very nice looking clear parts indeed. And now let's move on to the grey. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 4 sprues of grey plastic. This is the dark grey plastic, which is the more recent plastic that Airfix have been using. So let's have a feel. It feels a little bit greasy, probably worth a wash just to remove any mold release, but the mold quality is pretty nice. So this is frame C. On here we have got the upper wing surfaces and some internal cockpit stuff, and the details are of the recessed variety. So we've got recessed panel lines, and we've even got some little rivets and things in a few places, which is nice to see. We have a pilot, and this is the new kind of generic pilot that Airfix have been using in some of their more recent kits. It is generally an okay moulding. However, I think he's a little bit small. I think he's slightly under scale. He does look smaller than other pilots that we've had before in the past, and he does look dwarfed inside of the cockpit, but a completely usable figure if you want to use him. Some smaller details here then, which are quite crisply moulded. No excess flash, and there doesn't seem to be any misalignment with the mould, resulting in a seam line. So yeah, looking very good. On the inside then, we've got our ejector pin marks, which are cleverly on the inside and not on the outside, so that we don't have to do any tidying up. And they're not in any visible areas, so that's your landing gear bays there with a little bit of framework. So let's move on to this sprue. This has our propeller and parts of the landing gear and the doors. Again, little bits of rivet detail on the doors if the camera will pick that up. And engine exhausts and other smaller details. As with the other sprue, a little bit greasy, but there's no flash that I can see and no short shots, which is nice. Moving on to this sprue, which has our lower wing surface. Again, the details are similar to the upper wing, very crisp, no flash. We have our port and starboard tail surfaces. We have our wheels, and the wheels have different choices. So I wasn't paying attention to the instructions, but we have a choice of wheels. And interestingly, I don't know if this will pick up, but on these tyres, they've actually got the Dunlop logo or the Dunlop words. So we've got branded tyres in this one, and they are deflated slightly on the areas where the wheels will be under pressure when the aircraft is on the ground. But yeah, let's see if that'll pick it up. I'm pretty sure you might be able to see that. And then the last sprue, so we got through this quite quickly. We have our 2 fuselage halves, again, very nicely moulded. The details are the same as the rest of the kit, quite crisp. A few little rivet details in a few places around the fairing down the bottom there with the it joins the wings. Got some rivet detail, and on the engine radiator that looks quite nice as well with the cross hatching effect they've got going on there. And yeah, this is a nice looking kit. Flip over, we've got some internal cockpit detail on the walls there. Very nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this one. I'd like to do it in the silver scheme. So let's recap then. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 grey plastic sprues moulded to a good quality, a little bit greasy, but I couldn't see any mould misalignment, any excess flash, or any short shots in my look through today. We have our clear parts, which look to be absolutely fantastic as well. And we also had high quality cartograph decals, and there's quite a lot of them there as well. And we've got our different options down here to have our landing gear raised or lowered, which is quite thoughtful. We also had our instructions, which are to the usual format from Airfix, and they come with a wealth of information, easy to follow, printed in colour, which is always great. And all of that comes contained within this very attractive box. So like we said, originally released in 2022, tooling date is 2021, and then this is the 2023 version I've got here. How much would you be looking at paying for this kit? Well, the recommended retail price on the Airfix website is £11.99 for this, and it was the same for the previous offering as well. The previous, so I've just got quickly distracted. The previous offering featured a Tempest with the cannons protruding, the stubs of the cannons protruded through the wings. So on this particular version, the cannons are flush inside the aircraft, but on the other version, the barrels were slightly longer, and you can see we've got the extra barrel parts there. So that in itself is an interesting attention to detail. Naturally, for this kit, I don't need these extra barrels, but for the previous version, which is still available on the Airfix website, you would need to have your extended barrels. But yeah, so both kits retailing for £11.99. That seems about in line with other kits of this quality from Airfix in their range. Naturally, I think that some sellers do have it slightly cheaper. And as always, if you can get a model kit cheaper, then that saves up some money so you can get other things as well. On the whole, though, pretty excited to have a go at this silver scheme. And let me know down in the comments what you thought of my review, if you thought my assessment of this kit was fair. As always, quick shout out to my patrons and channel members for the extra support they give the channel. A massive thanks to these guys on screen. If you'd like to join them, take a look at the links in the description. There are other ways to help support the channel as well, and again, full information is below the video. Alternatively, to support the channel for free, make sure you subscribe with notifications turned on so you never miss a modelling upload. Finally though, last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.